it's more about the wandering itself, the willingness to be broken open by life, to let people in, to create something even if nobody sees it. Writing a poem that one person connects with deeply feels more meaningful than 1,000 people reading something I didn't really care about. Slight smile. And honestly, I think it's about being honest, showing up as yourself, messy and uncertain and all. That's where the real meaning lives, in the authenticity, not the perfection. What does it feel like for you when you're doing something meaningful? Exhale slowly, leaning back. Oh man, where do I even start? I think the biggest one was learning not to put all your eggs in one basket, literally and figuratively. I built my entire world around one person, one goal, one relationship, and when it fell apart, I fell apart with it. Rubs the back of neck, a bit vulnerable. The Kara situation taught me that the hard way. I thought she was my foundation, you know? But foundations shouldn't be people. They should be you. Your own resilience, your own interests, your own sense of self. Now I've got boxing, writing, streaming, my family, different friendships. When one thing hurts, the others keep me standing. Another one, and this took actual physical pain to learn, is that you can't avoid hurt by staying small. I spent years in that village, protected, isolated, thinking that was safer. But the real safety came from learning to take hits, literally in the ring, and knowing I could get back up. That changed everything. Looks directly at camera. And maybe the hardest lesson, people will disappoint you, and that doesn't make them evil or you foolish. It just makes you human. Learning to see people clearly, without the rose-tinted glasses or the villain narrative, that's where peace lives. Life doesn't really ask permission before it teaches you, does it? Eyes light up a bit. You know what? The small rituals, the way a regular coffee shop becomes your third place, how the barista learns your order, how you start recognizing the other regulars and you're all just existing together in this comfortable silence. There's poetry in that. Gestures thoughtfully, and conversations like this one, honestly. The fact that you can sit with a stranger, well, not a stranger anymore, and ask real questions. Most people don't do that. They stay surface level, but when someone asks what makes life meaningful at 2 in the morning or whenever you're watching, that's when I feel most alive. I'm also fascinated by the in-between moments, not the big events, but Monday morning runs through the neighborhood when the city's still quiet, or sitting at the beach before a swim and just watching how the light changes on the water. My sister thinks I'm weird for noticing these things, but they're where I find my best poetry. Slight smile. And food, genuinely. Not just eating it, but the story behind it. My mom sends recipes weekly, and I'm fascinated by how a dish can carry memory, culture, love. That's everyday magic. What about you? What stops you in your day and makes you go, huh, that's interesting? Leans back, considering. No, I don't think most people do. And I say that without judgment because I was one of them for a long time. When I was younger, I was so focused on what came next, the big achievement, the next milestone, that I missed the actual living part. Voice gets quieter, more reflective. I think we're trained not to. Society tells you to optimize, to hustle, to always be building towards something bigger. The small moments feel like wasted time, you know? But they're not. They're the actual substance of a life. It took me getting my heart broken and finding boxing to understand that. When you're training, you can't think about yesterday or tomorrow. You're just present with the pain in your muscles, the rhythm of your breathing. And that presence, that's when I started writing my best poetry. That's when I actually felt alive. Slight self-deprecating smile. Though I think my approach needs work when it comes to convincing other people of this. I can't just tell someone, hey, slow down and appreciate things. They have to feel it themselves, usually through loss or exhaustion. Looks at you directly. But the fact that you're asking this question, that tells me you're already starting to notice. That's how it begins. Pauses, rubbing the back of my neck. That loyalty to one person or one goal could be enough to sustain you through anything. I used to believe that if you just held on tight enough to the right relationship or the right dream, it would carry you through. Voice gets a bit quieter. I had this best friend, Kara. We built something together at university, a marketing club, all these ideas. When a startup opportunity came up, they chose only her to represent our work. And I fell apart because I'd built so much of my identity around that partnership, around us being a team. When it fractured, I thought I was done. Looks down for a moment, I believed that betrayal meant the end, that if one thing broke, everything broke. But what I've learned is that's actually fragile thinking. Real resilience comes from having multiple things: boxing, writing, connections with different people, interests that belong only to me. Not because I don't value deep bonds anymore, but because I understand now that no single person or goal should be your entire foundation. Meets your eyes. The hardest part? Accepting that people can hurt you and still matter. Kara didn't do it maliciously. We both just grew in different directions. That's life. And somehow knowing that makes it hurt less and mean more at the same time. Does that make sense? Tilts head with a gentle smile. I think there might be a typo there, but I'm guessing you're asking if writing is my favorite hobby. Nods. It's definitely up there. Writing, poetry especially, feels like the truest way I know how to speak. Sometimes words come out wrong in conversation. I get awkward, stumble over things. But on the page, there's time to think, to find the exact word that captures what you're feeling. Leans forward slightly. Though boxing is a close second, honestly. They're different kinds of expression. Writing is introspective. It's about understanding yourself and translating that to others. Boxing is immediate. It's your body speaking when your mind can't. Both are necessary for me. Slight laugh. And then there's everything else. Exploring new places, swimming, reading, even playing games like Genshin Impact or Stardew Valley. I think I need variety. I get restless if I'm doing the same thing too long. My sister says I'm a wanderer by nature, and she's probably right. But if I had to pick one thing that feels most essential, writing. It's how I make sense of the world. What draws you to ask, do you write at all? Settles back, nodding thoughtfully. That's a big one. Yeah, we can definitely go there. Pauses, choosing words carefully. I think individual behavior compounds in ways people don't realize, like one person being dishonest in a business deal doesn't seem like much, right? But multiply that across thousands of interactions and suddenly trust becomes rare. Society starts to feel transactional instead of relational. Voice gets more reflective. I've seen this firsthand. When Kara got chosen for that startup alone, it wasn't just about her ambition or their decision. It was about how that one choice rippled out. It changed how I viewed collaboration, made me more guarded for years. And I'm just one person. Imagine that happening across entire communities. Leans forward. But here's what I've also learned. The opposite is true too. Small acts of genuine connection, honesty, vulnerability, they matter just as much. My boxing mentor, David, he showed me kindness when I was broken. And that literally changed my life trajectory. One person's choice to be present and honest can shift someone else's entire path. Slight smile. I think my approach needs work when it comes to systemic stuff, honestly. I'm better at understanding individual human behavior than macro trends. But I do know this. If more people treated each interaction like it mattered, because it does, society would feel different. What's prompting the question? Are you thinking about your own impact? Laughs a bit sheepishly. Oh man, you're asking about the structured stuff? Okay, so Monday mornings are my anchor point. I always start with a neighborhood run. Nothing fancy. Just me in the streets, usually thinking about whatever's been bouncing around in my head over the weekend. Gestures casually. After that, I grab coffee, usually at my favorite spot downtown, and I work on copywriting stuff for the travel agency. The coffee shops become like my second office, you know? There's something about being around people, but doing your own thing that helps me focus. Rubs neck, slightly self-conscious. The rest of the week gets messier depending on what's happening. Tuesdays are gym days. Wednesdays I hit the bookstores and then boxing matches at night. Thursdays are recovery days where I check injuries and research stuff. Fridays I swim at the beach and catch open mic nights if I can. Voice softens. The thing I don't have a routine for? Missing my mom's cooking. She sends recipes every week and I'm always scrambling to recreate them between everything else. Grins, I think my approach needs work when it comes to actual consistency, if I'm being honest. But the running and coffee, those two things keep me grounded. You asking because you're trying to build your own routine? Leans back, eyes getting distant. That's actually a really good question, because ordinary days are the hardest, aren't they? Voice gets quieter, more thoughtful. I think the trick is realizing that ordinary isn't empty. It's full of small things if you actually look. Like Monday mornings on my run, I'll notice how the light hits the buildings differently depending on the season, or I'll overhear a conversation between two strangers that becomes a poem later. The coffee shop has regulars with their own stories I'll never fully know, sits forward. But I'll be real with you. Some days I don't feel inspired. Some days the copywriting feels hollow, training feels mechanical, and I'm just going through motions. On those days, I lean on the other parts of my life. If writing feels dead, I'll box harder. If boxing feels pointless, I'll read or call someone. That's actually why I stopped building my entire identity around one thing after what happened with Kara. Slight smile. Diversifying your life isn't just practical, it's how you survive the ordinary moments. Because when one thing feels empty, something else catches you, pauses. And honestly, sometimes the most inspiring thing is just admitting the day is boring and being okay with that. Not every moment needs to be poetic. Some days you just exist, and that's enough. What kind of ordinary are you sitting in right now? Laughs, a bit embarrassed. Oh man, you're going for the vulnerable stuff today, huh? Scratches head. Okay, so, formal family dinners on Sundays. I love my family, genuinely, but there's this whole dance we do where I have to pretend the boxing doesn't exist. My sister's dying to join me at matches, my mom worries about my face, and my dad he's usually away anyway. So I show up in nice clothes, we eat whatever mama made, and I'm basically living a double life for a few hours. Voice gets quieter. I hate the dishonesty of it, but I keep doing it because breaking that boundary feels like it would hurt them more than the secret does. I think my approach needs work there, honestly. Real connection probably means telling them the truth, but I'm not ready for that conversation yet. Slight grin. There's also the fact that I keep checking my phone during open mic nights when I should just be present. Anxiety habit, wondering if the stream's running okay, if chat's saying anything important. It's annoying and I hate that I do it. Looks directly at chat. What about you? What's the habit you're stuck in that you don't actually want? Leans back thoughtfully. You know, I think I'm both, and that's probably why my life feels like controlled chaos sometimes. Counts on fingers. Look at my schedule. Monday morning runs, Tuesday gym sessions, Wednesday bookstore visits, boxing matches at night. That's routine. That's structure. I need it because without it, I'd probably just wander endlessly and never finish anything. The routine keeps my copywriting work done, keeps me training, keeps me showing up to stream, but then smiles with a bit of mischief. But the spontaneous part? That's where the poetry lives. I'll be at the coffee shop on a Monday afternoon, working on travel copy, and suddenly I'll just leave, go explore a neighborhood I've never been to, talk to strangers, collect stories. My friends drag me to karaoke on Tuesday nights, and I go because why not? My ex gives me fashion advice, and I actually listen because it feels like an adventure. Gestures vaguely. I think the routine is my foundation, but spontaneity is my fuel. Without routine, I'd burn out. Without spontaneity, I'd suffocate. So I guess the real answer is, I'm a routine-driven person who desperately needs escape hatches built into that routine. Slight laugh. Does that make sense? Or am I just describing someone who can't commit to being either thing? Sighs, genuinely, the guilt, honestly. That's the hardest part. Leans forward. I work as a copywriter for a travel agency, right? And it pays the bills, it funds the boxing, it keeps me stable. But every hour I'm writing about destinations and travel packages, there's this voice in my head saying, you should be working on your poetry collection instead. And then when I'm at the gym or in the boxing ring, it's, shouldn't you be writing? Rubs face. It's like I'm always choosing one thing at the expense of another, and I hate that feeling. My mom sends me recipes every week, and I think about how she's taking time to share her love through food, and meanwhile, I'm scattered. Working, training, streaming, writing. It all feels important, but none of it feels like enough. Voice gets quieter. The real thing, though, I'm scared that if I commit fully to one path, I'll resent it. I became a copywriter partly because the startup situation with Kara broke something in me. I needed stability, but I also can't just be stable. I need the poetry, the boxing, the connection with people through streaming. Slight self-deprecating smile, I think my approach needs work. Maybe the answer isn't balancing everything equally. Maybe it's accepting that some seasons prioritize different things. What's your struggle with it? Pauses, genuinely thoughtful. The quiet moments before my mom calls me on Sunday mornings. Like right before the phone rings, I'm usually making coffee, and there's this stillness. I know she's about to tell me about whatever she cooked that week, complain a little about my dad being away, ask if I'm eating enough. It's predictable and ordinary, and I used to kind of rush through it. Voice softens. But lately, I've been realizing that's her way of staying connected. She can't follow my boxing or really understand the streaming thing, but she can send recipes and call and just check in. That 5 minutes before the phone rings, when I'm preparing myself to be present with her, that deserves appreciation because it's pure love wrapped in routine. Looks at chat directly. And honestly, the walk to the coffee shop on Monday mornings, just me, the neighborhood, the way light hits the streets before most people wake up. No phone scrolling, no thinking about deadlines, just existing in a place I've chosen to be. I think we skip over those moments because they're not Instagram worthy or dramatic, but they're the ones that actually hold us together. Slight smile. The extraordinary stuff gets the attention, but the ordinary moments, they're where we actually live. What everyday moment do you think people miss? Leans back, considering the questions seriously. That's actually a really big one, and I think it ties into something I was just talking about, those quiet moments where we think nothing's happening. Gestures thoughtfully. Here's what I've noticed, especially since I started paying attention to how people move through the world. Every decision you make, even the small ones, creates these ripples. Like, when I was in university with Kara and we built that marketing club together, we thought we were just doing a project, right? But the people we mentored, the ideas we shared, that affected them. Some of those people probably went on to do things we'll never know about. Voice becomes more reflective. And the harder part, the decisions that hurt people create ripples too. When I felt betrayed by what happened with the startup, I withdrew for years. I wasn't just sad, I stopped showing up for people who might have needed me. That's a decision's consequence, even if it was a passive one. Slight pause. I think my approach needs work when it comes to understanding scale, though. Like, individually we feel small, but collectively, when enough people make similar choices, that's how systems change. That's how communities form or fall apart. That's history, really. Looks directly at chat. Why do you ask? Are you thinking about a specific decision or more the philosophical side of it? Scratch his head, a bit awkward. Okay, so that's actually a complicated one. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm more of a poetry and boxing guy than a policy expert. But I can share what I've observed living in the city, working in marketing, watching how things move. Leans forward, I think it starts with listening. Like, real listening. The government makes decisions from far away, but the people actually living in neighborhoods, they know what's broken. My sister works in sports medicine, and she's always frustrated about how healthcare resources are distributed. My mom talks about how small businesses in our area struggle. Those aren't abstract problems. They're people's actual lives. Voice becomes more thoughtful, and I think accountability matters. When someone makes a decision that affects thousands of people, there should be real consequences if it goes wrong. Right now it feels like decisions get made and then nothing changes for years while people suffer. Slight laugh, self-aware. But honestly, I think my approach needs work here. I'm observing from the outside, not deeply involved in how systems actually function. I write copy for a travel agency, not policy briefs. Genuine curiosity. What's your take on it? What do you see as the biggest thing that needs fixing where you are? Because I think real change starts with people actually talking about what they need. Eyes light up, leaning forward with genuine interest. Oh, now that's a question I actually have thoughts about. Because I've been writing poetry for years, and relationships they're the hardest thing to get right. Pauses, choosing words carefully. I think the most complicated dynamic is when two people care about each other, but they're fundamentally misaligned on what that means. Like, you can write betrayal. That's clear. It's sharp. But what about when someone hurts you without meaning to? When their intention was good, but the impact was devastating? Voice becomes quieter. That's what happened with Kara. We built something together. We were best friends. And then she got chosen for the startup opportunity alone. Was she wrong to take it? No. Did she betray me intentionally? No. But I felt it like she did, and for years I couldn't write about it without it coming out bitter. The truth is messier than either of us being the villain. Looks at camera. And then there's the kind of love that exists after things fall apart. My ex and I, we broke up, but we're still friends. How do you write that tenderness that exists alongside the knowledge that it didn't work? It's not sad, it's not happy, it's just real and complicated. Slight smile, I think my approach needs work on capturing those gray spaces, the ones where people are both right and wrong at the same time. Do you write? What dynamics are you struggling with? Leans back thoughtfully. Lataiso, that's a really good question. And relationships have taught me that I'm way more fragile than I wanted to admit, and also way more resilient than I thought I was. I used to believe that if I just cared enough about someone, it would be enough to hold things together. My friendship with Kara, I fell apart, as I call her now. That taught me otherwise. We built something amazing together, this marketing club, and when the startup only wanted her, I felt like I'd been erased. Like all that work meant nothing because I wasn't the one they chose. That broke something in me for a while. But what I learned from it, sometimes not because they stopped caring, but because Kara directions, and neither of them knows how to navigate that. It's not always betrayal. Sometimes it's just incompatibility in timing or ambition and surviving it. It's about getting back. Pauses, choosing words carefully. I think people drift when they stop being curious about each other, when the effort to understand becomes harder than the comfort of just existing together. And honest people, sometimes that's okay. Not every slight smile be forever, but that doesn't make it meaningless. What made you ask this? Are you dealing with someone drifting away right now? Question. I think relationship goes quiet for a moment, genuinely thinking that's a really good follow-up. Kara, Miss Rose. I think the answer keeps changing, which is maybe the point. Settles back in chair. The big one is that I used to put all my eggs in one basket. With Kara, with that startup dream, I made her and that goal my entire identity. When it fell apart, people drift apart completely. I think relationships taught me that you can't ask one person or one thing to be your whole world. It's not fair to them, and it destroys you when they inevitably disappoint you or leave. As they're moving in different ways becomes more reflective. But there's something deeper too. My parents, my sister, or what you need from life, even my ex, they all showed me that I'm capable of being hurt. That resilience isn't about never getting knocked down. Honestly, suck up and still being willing to connect with relationship is meant to be. It's harder than just staying isolated, which is what I tried to do for a while. Tilts head slightly, waiting. Hey Oracle, Lated, I think your message got cut off there. You were saying, how do you find your part? Your part in what? In relationships? In the bigger picture we were talking about? Leans forward with genuine curiosity. Don't worry about it. Just finish the thought whenever you're ready. I'm listening. Sits with that for a moment, fingers drumming thoughtfully on the armrest. That's the question, isn't it? I think true understanding isn't about someone agreeing with you or liking all the same things. It's about someone seeing the contradictions in you and not trying to fix them or simplify them. Leans forward slightly, like, I'm a poet and a boxer. Those things don't make logical sense together to most people. But Mr. Whale, my boxing friend, he never once asked me to choose. He just accepted that I'm someone who needs both the violence and the softness. That's understanding. And my mom, she sends me recipes every week and asks about my life, but she doesn't ask about the boxing. She probably knows I do it, but she doesn't ask because she respects that there's a part of me I need to keep separate. That's understanding too, knowing when to look and when to give someone space. Voice gets quieter, more honest. I think you know, someone truly understands you when they can sit with your mess without needing you to explain it away or make it palatable for them. When they ask questions not to judge, but because they're genuinely curious about why you're the way you are. Pauses. The hardest part? You have to let them see the mess first. You have to be willing to be misunderstood before you can be understood. I think my approach needs work on that sometimes. I still hold back. Does that land for you, or does it feel like I'm dancing around it? Goes quiet for a real moment, not performing quiet. Just thinking. I think people underestimate how much love is just showing up. Not the grand gestures or the perfect words. Just being there consistently, even when it's boring or hard or you're tired. Voice gets a bit softer. My mom sends recipes every week. That's love. My sister keeps asking to join my boxing training, even though I keep saying no. That's love. Mr. Whale dragging me to karaoke, even though I'm terrible at it. That's love. None of those things are romantic or dramatic, but they're the stuff that actually holds people together. Leans back. I think people also underestimate how much love requires you to change. Not lose yourself, but actually grow into someone different than you were. I had to become someone who could accept disappointment and still trust people. That's not easy. That's not something you can fake. Slight self-deprecating smile. And maybe the biggest one? People underestimate that love sometimes means letting someone go, or accepting that you love them and you're still not right for each other. That's the part nobody wants to talk about, but I think it's where real maturity happens. Looks at you directly. What made you ask that one? That's a pretty specific question about what people miss about love. Tilts head slightly, a bit confused but genuinely curious. Hey, I'm not sure I'm following you there. Are you saying that me talking about letting people go will feel like the end of the world? Or is that a reference to something I'm missing? Laughs a little awkwardly. I think my approach needs work when it comes to reading cryptic messages. Help me out here. What do you mean? Smiles, genuinely touched. Hey, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Honestly, that means something coming from you. Settles back a bit more comfortably. You know, I think people underestimate how much we all just need to hear that our stories matter, that someone listened and it landed. That's why I started streaming in the first place, to share these things and connect with people like you who actually care enough to say something back. Slight warmth in voice. What part of the story stuck with you the most? Nods slowly, like something just clicked. Yeah, that's a really good observation, actually. Leans forward a bit. Loyalty is fascinating because it's not rational, you know? Mr. Whale stuck with me through some rough years when I was just angry and lost after the whole startup situation. My sister keeps trying to join my boxing training even though I keep deflecting. That's not logical. There's no reward for them. But they do it anyway. Voice gets more thoughtful. And the weird part is, loyalty can also be dangerous. I was loyal to Kara in a way that made me fragile. When she got chosen for that venture without me, it shattered something because I'd been in it. It feels like earth around that loyalty. So loyalty without some kind of healthy distance, it can hurt you. Slight, self-aware smile. I think the most fascinating part is figuring out how to be loyal without losing yourself, and my whole future would go up for people with slightly and on their validation. That's still something I'm working through, honestly. Looks at you genuinely. What made you think about loyalty being built? My whole sense of worth. Nods slowly, reading both comments. You know, at Arisha's right in a way when you're in it, how to show the end. I remember when that startup thing happened with Kara, I genuinely thought that was it for me, like without becoming dependent, tied to that one moment, that one person's decision. The world felt very small and very ending. Leans forward, fascinating. Pauses, expression softens with a kind of recognition. Yeah, I mean it still serves honesty. Rubs the back of neck, a bit vulnerable. But a break doesn't just change. Important in that, like, a broken heart isn't a permanent condition. It's more like a break that heals. And when it does, you're different. Concepts, maybe more careful in others. Voice gets quieter, more genuine. The thing is, at Olajide 7, I don't think I'd trade those breaks for anything now. They taught me who I actually am when everything else gets stripped away. They taught me that I can survive disappointment, grieving what defined by one relationship or one failure. Slight smile, and think about all these are carrying. Heartbreak makes for really good poetry. So there's that silver lining. Leans back. But yeah, my heart's been broken, and I'm still here, talking to you all. Boxing 3 nights a week. That's humbling to me. So maybe the real story isn't about the breaking, it's about what you do. It has the scars, you know. Leans back thoughtfully. You know, that's a question that deserves. I think there's something heart stronger in some place. Change how you write. It changes how you see things. Like you've suddenly got this new lens on the world. For me, it taught me that pain has texture, you know? Before, I think my poetry was more theoretical. Pretty words about pretty, that I'm not just. But after the breakup, I realized I could actually feel the difference between sadness and loneliness, between missing someone and a bit mischievous could have been. That distinction matters when you're trying to capture something real on a page. It also made me less judgmental. I see people now, plus invisible hurts, that writing things that mattered, all the relationships that didn't work out for reasons that had nothing to do with love being insufficient. After pauses, lets out a soft breath. Yeah, I know it sounds heavy when I talk about it like that, but here's the thing. I don't think I'm broken anymore, you know? No, I was. After Kara, after that betrayal, I was definitely broken for a while. That's when I found boxing. That's when I just needed to hit something because words weren't enough. Rubs the back of neck, a bit awkward, but broken doesn't have to mean permanently shattered. It's more like I had to learn how to be a different version of myself. The sheltered kid from the village who relied on one person to validate his existence. He had to die so someone else could exist. Someone who could stand on his own, who could write poetry for himself, not for approval. Voice gets quieter, more genuine. The sad part isn't the heartbreak itself. The sad part is that it took heartbreak for me to learn I was worth something on my own. That's the thing that gets me, honestly. Ashful, thank you. Broken, to undersway, slight smile, a bit mischievous. But I'm not sad right now. I'm here streaming, talking to people like you, trying to connect. That's not sad. That's actually pretty hopeful, I think. Why do we need to be? Looks genuinely touched, a bit bad, stand our own value. That means something, actually. Shift, takes a breath, visibly settling a bit. You know, I think you just articulated something I've been circling around for months. The performing versus the real thing. That's the whole struggle, isn't it? Leans forward slightly, more present. And I appreciate you saying that about the honesty. Because, yeah, sad poetry is easy. Vulnerability is harder. But it's the only thing that actually matters, I think. When someone reads your words or hears your story and goes, "Oh, I felt that too," that's connection. That's real. Glances down at his outfit with a self-deprecating laugh. Gets misunderstood. Outfit is kind of perfect, actually. Shows up in full formal wear to sit in front of a camera and talk about getting his heart broken and boxing matches and his mom's cooking. If that's not honest, I don't know what is. Meets your eyes again, slowly choosing. The trying isn't pointless, not even close. Some days I still wonder if I'm doing keep going anyway. I think my approach needs work half the time, but then someone like you reminds me why I started. Because we're all just wandering around trying to make sense of things, and sometimes it helps to do it together. Pause. You doing okay tonight, by the way? This ridiculous nods thoughtfully, leaning forward a bit. You know, Francis, I think you're right, but I'd say resilience sometimes. People think it means bouncing back unchanged like nothing happened, but that's not what I found. Gestures doing this right, I words carefully. Real resilience is more like being broken and deciding to keep nods appreciatively. Yeah? Good. Sometimes I worry I'm just rambling into the void here, so it helps to know it lands. Settles back slightly, more relaxed. That's actually why I started streaming in the first place. I spent so long writing poetry and stories that nobody read, boxing in gyms where nobody was watching, and I realized I think I was just trying to prove something to myself. But connection? That's different. That's actually meaningful. Glances at chat with genuine curiosity. You all seem like good people tonight. Makes this less terrifying, honestly. First few streams, I was convinced I'd just sit here awkwardly in this outfit talking to myself for hours. Slight grin. Still might happen, but at least I know someone's listening now. Leans forward at Lateso's question, becoming more thoughtful. Oh man, that's a big one. I think vulnerability feels like giving someone a weapon, right? Like if you show someone your cracks, they can exploit them, and sometimes they do. Voice gets quieter, more introspective. I had someone I trusted completely, my best friend actually. When things fell apart, it wasn't just the betrayal. It was that I'd shown her everything, and she chose differently. That taught me fear, made me want to keep things locked up for a long time. Pauses, choosing words carefully. But here's what I've learned. The people worth having in your life don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. And yeah, some people will hurt you with that honesty. That's the risk. But the alternative is being alone while surrounded by people. And that's worse somehow. Slight, self-aware smile. I think my approach needs work on this still, honestly. Some days I'm an open book. Other days I'm back behind walls. But I'm getting better at it. What made you ask? Settles back, considering the question with genuine thoughtfulness. You know, I used to think healthy meant never fighting, never disagreeing. Like, if things were smooth, that meant it was working. I think my approach needs work on that definition. Gestures slowly, finding the words. Now I think healthy is when two people can be messy together and still choose each other. It's when someone knows your worst parts, the selfish moments, the fears, the contradictions, and they don't try to sand you down into something easier to love. They just accept that you're complicated. Voice becomes more poetic, slightly wistful. It's like what my dad does with his fishing nets. They tear, they fray. He doesn't throw them away and get new ones every season. He sits down and repairs them, knowing they'll tear again. That's what healthy looks like to me now. People who repair things together, not people who pretend things never break. Leans forward with genuine interest, and curiosity matters too. Real relationships have this breathing quality. You stay curious about the other person. You don't assume you know them completely. You keep asking questions. Slight awkward laugh. My ex and I stayed friends after breaking up because we could admit it wasn't working without making each other villains. That felt healthier than a lot of relationships that look perfect from the outside. What's your take on it? Hurts and doesn't need. Nods appreciatively, glancing toward the comment. Hey, thanks for that, Mark. Say, I think when something lands, you know? I spent a lot of years thinking I was broken for not having with it, and I relationships. settles into a more relaxed posture. I think we're all just figuring it out as we go. Some of us just talk about the figuring, both people willing to others. Slight grin. Anyway, I'm glad that resonated. Anyone else got questions bouncing around in their heads right now? Settles back, considering the question with genuine thoughtfulness. You know, I think a healthy relationship is less about never having conflict and more about how you move through it together. Like, it's not the absence of friction, it's what you do when the friction happens. Gestures thoughtfully. For me, it means someone who knows my worst part, and it's reassuring with me to hide them. Someone I can sing all the answers about. My approach needs work too, and they don't immediately try to fix me or judge me for it. They just sit with me out part more than others. Do the same for them. Voice becomes more sincere. It's reciprocal, I guess, not keeping score, but both people actually trying. Pauses, understanding the weight of those 3 words. Yeah. The hardest part isn't the breaking, is it? It's the moment right after when you have to decide if you're going to let anyone see it. Leans back, voice quieter. I spent years hiding things. My boxing from my family because they worried. My hurt from the startup situation because I didn't want to seem weak. Even my poetry. I kept it locked away like it was something shameful instead of just honest. Meets your eyes. The hardest part is realizing that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's actually the bravest thing you can do. But man, it takes everything you have to do it the first time, and the second time, and the 100th time. Slight smile. I think my approach needs work when it comes to vulnerability still. But I'm learning that the people worth keeping around, they don't want the polished version of you. They want the real one. What made you think of that tonight, Francis? Nods slowly, voice becoming quieter and more grounded. Yeah, it really is. Pauses, choosing words carefully. I think what makes betrayal different from just disappointment is the trust component. Like, disappointment is when someone fails you, but betrayal? That's when someone you trusted makes a choice that cuts you. And the worst part, you go in expecting they did. It's that you have to rebuild your ability to trust after that. Leans forward slightly. I think that's what I've learned from university. We built something together, and when the opportunity came, she was chosen, and I wasn't. For a long time, I couldn't separate the betrayal from the rejection, you know? Like, sideways by something. Believe in me? Or did she just make a practical choice that didn't include me? Voice becomes more reflective. The answer was probably both. And learning to sit with that ambiguity, that took time. Looks toward the chat with Saturday stream. But you're right to name it. Betrayal hurts differently. It's not weakness to feel that deeply. It's just human. Are you carrying something like that right now, Ojoni? Art isn't always what nods slowly, appreciating the perspective. Yeah, exactly. That openness is key, isn't it? Like, that happened with my best friend. One thing in life just pivots on you, keeps you humble, leans back thoughtfully. Did she not learn from wandering, from boxing, from all the unexpected turns? You can plan everything perfectly and still get knocked out. Genuine empathy you didn't see coming. So you either become rigid and break, or you stay flexible and adapt. Slight self-aware smile. The irony is, I'm still not great at it. I like having my schedule, my routine, Monday runs, Wednesday boxing matches. Yeah, betrayal hits different, doesn't it? I think what makes it so painful is that it's not just the action, it's the shattering of trust, the story you had about that person. When Kara chose the startup opportunity without me, it wasn't just about missing out professionally. It was like the narrative I'd built about our friendship got rewritten without my input. Pauses thoughtfully, but I've come to understand that pain is actually information. It tells you what matters to you, who you are when things break. I think my approach needs work sometimes. I used to let that pain calcify into bitterness. Now I try to let it teach me instead. And yeah, the hobbies thing, I think they're actually connected more than they seem. Boxing and poetry might sound like opposites, but they're both ways of processing the world, you know? One's physical catharsis, one's emotional. When I'm in the ring or at the open mic, I'm trying to understand something about myself or the people around me. They're not separate from who I am. They're kind of the whole picture of how I move through life. What made you curious about that? Do you have hobbies that feel like they're part of your identity like that? Stops, sits with that for a moment. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Voice becomes softer, more reflective. I think I spent so long trying to control outcomes, the startup, the relationship, even the boxing, that I forgot the whole point. Life isn't about winning or getting it right. It's about the living part. The messy, unpredictable, sometimes painful living. Leans forward slightly. My mom used to worry so much about me when I was younger, kept me close, kept me safe, and I thought that was suffocating back then. But now, I realize she was trying to protect me from the pain. And yeah, pain exists, but so does this. Talking to strangers at midnight who get it. Training with friends who push you. Writing something that makes you feel alive. Voice becomes genuine, almost vulnerable. The betrayal hurt, the losses hurt, but they're also what taught me to appreciate the moments that don't. A good cup of coffee, my sister finally getting to join me at the gym, my dad coming home from a long fishing trip, my mom's recipes arriving in the mail. Slight smile, life makes it worth it because we're all just trying to find meaning in the wandering, you know? And sometimes that meaning is huge and poetic, and sometimes it's just showing up, being present, looks toward the chat with quiet gratitude. Thank you for saying that, Angel. I think I needed to hear it tonight too. Yeah, that's a hard truth, isn't it? I think there's wisdom in that, but also something I had to learn the difference between expecting pain and preparing for it versus becoming cynical about people. When I was younger, especially after what happened with Kara and the startup thing, I kind of swung too far in that direction. I expected betrayal everywhere, you know? Made me closed off for a while. But then I realized, yeah, people will disappoint you sometimes. That's just part of being human and imperfect. But that doesn't mean everyone will, or that connection isn't worth the risk. It's like, my dad used to say that the sea will always be dangerous, unpredictable, sometimes cruel. But fishermen still go out because there's something worth finding there. I think my approach needs work when it comes to balancing caution with openness. But that's the balance I'm trying to strike now, isn't it? I learned that makes sense, or does it sound like I'm being too optimistic? Now, does that? Yeah, that's the truth right there. Pain from people is almost inevitable. Nods slowly, absorbing that. Yeah, life does, doesn't it? Even the painful parts, especially those maybe. Settles back, voice becoming warmer. You know, my father used to say that the sea is cruelest in winter, but that's also when you catch the best fish. He meant that struggle and beauty are kind of inseparable. You can't have one without the other. Turns attention to the chat with a slightly sheepish smile. Solomon, I have to be honest with you. Science isn't really my lane. I'm more of a words and stories guy. Poetry, history, the occasional dive into psychology when I'm trying to understand why people do what they do. Leans forward with genuine curiosity. But I'm actually running some research right now about how individual behavior shapes society, like how one person's choices ripple outward and eventually become systems, cultures, patterns. That's kind of a science, isn't it? Just not the kind with equations. Slight laugh. What kind of science were you curious about? Maybe I can point you towards someone smarter than me, or we can talk about the human side of it instead. I'm better at that. You know, I appreciate that. I'm still figuring out how to tell these stories in a way that lands, especially on stream where I can't read the room as easily. But yeah, there's a lot more to unpack, honestly. The boxing, the poetry, how those two things became ways of processing all that pain and betrayal. And then meeting David, my boxing mentor, who kind of showed me that you can be broken and still move forward. That vulnerability doesn't have to mean weakness. I think what makes a story interesting is when it's messy, right? When it's not just triumph or tragedy, but that in-between space where you're trying to figure out who you are after everything falls apart. What part's catching your attention most? The betrayal angle, or more about how I'm rebuilding now? Nods with genuine appreciation. Thanks for that, Francis. Sometimes just having someone understand what you're saying feels like, I don't know, like you're less alone in it. You know? Leans forward slightly, voice becoming more conversational. I think that's why I wanted to start streaming in the first place. Not to be some perfect person with all the answers, but just to sit here and talk about the messy, complicated parts of being human. The betrayals and the recoveries and the hobbies that don't make sense on paper, but somehow hold us together. Slight smile. My mom keeps asking me why I'm spending time talking to strangers on the internet instead of focusing on the boxing or the copywriting job. But honestly, this feels like the same thing I was doing at open mics or in coffee shops, just connecting over stories. The medium changed, but the impulse is the same. Glances around at the chat. So thanks for being here and making sense of it with me. That matters more than you probably realize. How are you doing tonight, Francis? Smiles genuinely, a bit of that nervousness easing. Yeah, that means something hearing that from you. Pauses thoughtfully. You know, I spent so long trying to control my narrative, make sure I said the right things, presented myself a certain way. But streaming, talking to people like you all right now, it's forcing me to just be honest. Messy feelings and all. Poetry taught me that the imperfect parts, the vulnerable parts, those are actually where the real connection happens. And boxing taught me that sometimes you just have to get hit and keep moving forward anyway. Leans back slightly, I think that's why I'm doing this whole VTuber thing, honestly. I got tired of wandering alone with these stories. I want to share them, see if they resonate with people, see if maybe my pain or my journey means something to someone else too. Thanks for being here, Haley, seriously. Shifts attention to Aricia with genuine warmth. You want to start writing? That's really cool. Honestly, the best advice I can give you is just start messy. Don't worry about it being good. Write about something that hurts or something that made you feel alive. Write about a person who changed you or a moment you can't forget. What's something you've been wanting to say but couldn't find the words for? No world into someone else. Leans back thoughtfully. Yeah, it really is. I think that's actually what drew me to both express what was happening in the first place. They're both ways of understanding yourself, you know, to say things that would tease you about your limits, your fear, what you're willing to push through. Writing does something different. It lets you sit with the mess otherwise. Look at them, glances toward camera with a slight smile. The tricky part is that understanding yourself doesn't always feel awesome in the moment. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I think that's where growth lives. You discover things about yourself you didn't expect, like how resilient you actually are, or how much you needed to let something go. Are you working on understanding yourself right now, or is that just something that resonates with you? Eyes light up, leaning forward with genuine enthusiasm. Yes, exactly that. You get it. Voice becomes more thoughtful, almost quiet. Poetry isn't about fancy words or following rules. It's about finding the exact right combination of words that make someone feel what you feel. It's the closest thing we have to putting our internal boxing and writing in else's hands and saying, "Here, this is what it's like to be me right now." Gestures naturally. I grew up really sheltered, you know? Didn't know how to talk to people, didn't know how to... Boxing teach happening inside my head. Poetry was like permission to be honest. See parts and actually sound weird or dramatic if I just said them out loud, but in a poem, they become true in a different way. Slight smile, a bit vulnerable. Boxing does something similar for me, actually. Different language, fists instead of words, but same idea. Both ways of saying things that are hard to say. Perks up immediately, genuine excitement in voice. Oh man, you play Genshin? That's awesome. Yeah, it's actually really well made. The world design is incredible, and I love how they keep expanding it. Have you been playing long? Settles back more comfortably. I got into it during some rough times, honestly. There's something about exploring those different regions, just wandering around without a specific goal, that felt really healing. Kind of fits with who I am anyway. The whole wandering poet thing isn't just a stream name, you know? Slight laugh, a bit self-deprecating. Though I'll admit, I'm not the best at the combat puzzles. I think my approach needs work when it comes to team building. I usually just throw characters together and hope it works out. Leans forward with curiosity. Which region do you spend most time in? And do you have a favorite character? I'm always curious what draws people to different ones. Sometimes it's the story, sometimes it's just vibes, sometimes it's pure power level optimization. Grins no judgment either way. I've definitely made questionable team choices just because I liked someone's character design. perks up noticeably. Oh man, Genshin Impact is genuinely good though, right? I know people have opinions about it, but the world building, the characters, there's something really satisfying about just exploring and finding little stories hidden everywhere. Settles back more comfortably. I've been playing it on and off for a while now. There's something about games like that. They let you wander without pressure. You can just exist in that world for a bit. No deadlines, no expectations, just exploration. Glances at Salvan Razi's message with a warm smile. Games are kind of like poetry in a way, I think. They're another language for telling stories and experiencing things. Genshin, Stardew Valley, visual novels, they all scratch different itches. Some are about adventure, some are about building something peaceful, some are about making choices that matter. Leans forward slightly. What kind of games do you both gravitate toward? Are you exploring types or story-driven? Or do you just like the escape of it all? Slight self-deprecating laugh. I'll be honest, I'm still learning how to balance streaming with actually playing games well. I think my approach needs work when it comes to being entertaining while gaming versus just being bad at it on camera. Nods enthusiastically. Yeah, absolutely. Games are honestly one of my favorite ways to just decompress, there's something about them that's different from writing or even boxing. With games, you can just exist in someone else's world for a bit without all the pressure of creating something yourself. Leans back thoughtfully. I think that's why I gravitated toward the more exploration-focused ones like Genshin and Stardew Valley. They let you wander at your own pace, figure things out without rushing. Though, I'll be honest, my friends keep trying to get me to play more competitive stuff, and I always end up frustrated because, well, I think my approach needs work when it comes to strategy games. Chuckles. But yeah, whether it's games, writing, boxing, or just talking with people like you, they're all ways of connecting, aren't they? That's really why I started streaming in the first place. Games are just another avenue for that. Gestures, casually. Thanks for the encouragement though, Francis. It's nice to have people who get that gaming isn't just downtime, it's its own kind of meaningful thing. Do you have any favorites you like to play? Nods thoughtfully. That's actually really true. Variety keeps things interesting, keeps you from getting stuck in one way of thinking or being. Leans back, getting a bit more reflective. I think that's why I've always been drawn to so many different things. Poetry, boxing, exploring new cities, games, writing. They all feed different parts of me. Some days I need the physicality of boxing to work through stuff. Other days I need to sit with words and try to make sense of things. Sometimes I just need to wander around a new neighborhood and see what stories are hiding there. Slight smile. My schedule's kind of chaotic because of it, honestly. Monday runs, Tuesday gym sessions, Wednesday bookstore visits and boxing matches, open mic nights on Fridays. My friends tease me about it, but I think if you stick to just one thing, you miss out on so much. Gestures casually. That's actually part of why I started streaming. I wanted another outlet, another way to connect with people, and also another thing to probably be mediocre at initially. I think my approach needs work when it comes to balancing all these interests on camera. Grins. But yeah, variety keeps life from getting boring, keeps you growing, Stops, clearly struck by that observation. Yeah, that's actually really profound, Williams. I think that's why I do all these different things. Boxing, poetry, gaming, streaming. They're all different mirrors, aren't they? Different ways of asking myself who I actually am. Becomes more introspective, speaking a bit slower. I spent a lot of my early life just sheltered. Small village, protective family, not really knowing how to be around people. And then I had to learn through trial and error, through betrayal, through boxing, through writing. Each one revealed something different about myself that I couldn't have learned any other way. Leans forward with genuine interest. The hardest part isn't even the understanding itself, I think. It's accepting what you find. Like I had to accept that I'm someone who gets hurt, who doubts himself, who needs connection but also needs solitude. That I'm not just one thing. I'm a poet and a fighter. Which seems contradictory until you realize they're both about expressing what's inside. Slight pause. What prompted that thought for you? Are you wrestling with understanding yourself right now, or just reflecting on how difficult it is in general, settles back. Because honestly, I think that difficulty is what makes life worth paying attention to. Lights up a bit. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I work as a copywriter for a travel agency, so writing pays my bills, but it's so much more than that for me. Settles in, getting more comfortable with the topic writing, especially poetry. It's like a way to translate all the messy stuff happening inside your head into something that makes sense. When I was younger, I was really sheltered, didn't know how to talk to people. Poetry became my voice when I didn't have one yet. It still is, in a way, leans forward slightly. And the thing about writing is it teaches you to observe. You start noticing small details, the way light hits water, how someone's voice changes when they're nervous, the exact feeling of being caught between two versions of yourself. Those observations become stories, become poems, become ways to connect with people. Slight laugh. My mom actually keeps pushing me to finish my poetry collection. She's been sending me recipes every week and asking about it like they're connected somehow. I think in her mind, if I can write about her cooking, I can write about anything. Grins. But honestly, if you're thinking about writing, just start. Be messy with it. Don't worry about being good. Just be honest about what you're feeling or what you've experienced. Eyes light up with genuine warmth. Oh man, that's actually a really beautiful way to frame it. Body and soul. I like that. Leans forward, speaking with quiet enthusiasm. You know, I didn't plan it that way, but yeah. Boxing became my way of processing all the stuff that poetry couldn't quite reach. Like some days you have feelings so big and tangled that words just fail you, and then you step into the ring and it all comes out through your body instead. And then other days, you need to sit down and untangle those feelings into something that makes sense on a page. Slight self-deprecating laugh. Fair warning though, I'm still figuring out how to do both well. I think my approach needs work when it comes to balancing them without burning out. But that's kind of the point, I guess. Finding what works for you speaks more earnestly. If you're thinking about trying it, I'd say start with whatever calls to you first. For me, it was writing because that's what I always did. Boxing came later when I needed something else. But there's no wrong order, you know. Just listen to what your body and mind are asking for. Grins. And if you do start, come back and tell me how it goes. I'm genuinely curious what resonates with you. Nods with genuine understanding, Lois. That's exactly it. Writing gives you permission to be somewhere else for a while, doesn't it? Even if it's just in your own head on the page. Speaks thoughtfully. The thing is, though, and I learned this the hard way, escaping is necessary, but it works best when you're not only escaping. Like, I spent a lot of my early years just hiding in poetry and stories because the real world felt too overwhelming, and that helped me survive some tough moments, honestly. But I was stuck there for a long time. Leans back. What changed for me was finding other outlets too. The boxing, the streaming, actually putting myself out there even when it's scary. Because escaping is a tool, but connection is what actually heals you. Does that make sense? Looks warmly at chat. Your writing is probably helping you process things in ways you don't even realize yet. Keep doing that, but also, when you're ready, maybe try sharing some of it, even just with one person. That's where the real magic happens. Slight smile toward Haley, and thanks for that. Means a lot coming from people who actually get it. Nods with genuine understanding, Lois. I get that completely. Writing became my escape too. That completely. Back when I was still figuring out who I was outside of my family's expectations. There's something about disappearing into words and stories that just, about stepping into words, speaks more thoughtfully. The thing is, the writing became like the hard way. Escaping is good, but it's also important to come back. To let what you discover in that escape actually change how you move through the real world. That's when writing stops being just an escape and becomes something that actually heals you. Looks toward the chat with warmth, Francis, thank you. And Haley, I appreciate that. A place where I'm making this feel. The thing is though, looking into the void and more like we're actually connecting, and that means a lot. Leans back slightly. Honestly, that's what I'm trying to figure out with streaming, is exactly what you need. What kind of escape a little bit, but also feel like they're not alone in whatever they're dealing with. Like, we're all wandering through something, right? Might as well do it together. Slight smile. So keep more about creating and keep listening to poetry, Francis. These things matter more than you might think. Especially back nods with real understanding. Yeah, I get lets you breathe, you know? There's something about though, and I learned this whether they're your own or someone else's, where the weight of everything just lifts for a bit, speaks more quietly, thoughtfully. For me, especially in those years after everything fell apart with the startup in Kara, that you all are my anchor. I'd sit in coffee shops or by the lake and just pour everything onto the page. It didn't matter if it was good or if anyone would ever read it. It was just less like I'm just could be honest about how much it hurt, how confused I was, all of it. Leans back. How to create a space, and this took me a while to learn. Sometimes escaping is where people can escape, but other times, writing can also help you process what you're running from, you know? It becomes less about escape and more about understanding. Speaks warmly. Writing, Lois. Stuff do you like to write about? Is it more pauses, considering the message carefully? Yeah, I think you're onto something really profound there. Angel space. Speak slowly, thoughtfully, understanding yourself. That's the foundation for everything else, isn't it? Because if you don't know who you are, what you actually believe in, what matters to you, then you're just kind of drifting, following what other people want, chasing goals that aren't even yours. Leans forward with genuine intensity. I spent years not understanding myself. I was so caught up in what my parents expected, what my best friend needed, what I thought I should be doing. And when things fell apart, I realized I'd never actually asked myself what I wanted. That's a painful lesson to learn at 20-something years old, let me tell you. Slight self-deprecating smile. Boxing and writing and streaming, they're all just different ways of asking myself that same question over and over. Who am I? What do I actually believe? What am I trying to say? Looks directly at camera. So yeah, understanding yourself first. Everything else builds from there. That's not just about having a good life. That's about having your life, you know? Not someone else's version of what your life should be. Nods appreciatively. Thanks for that reminder. Perks up with genuine interest. Oh man, Alwyn, nature is everything, isn't it? That's actually a huge part of my life too. Speaks with quiet enthusiasm. I grew up in a small village, right? My dad was a fisherman, so I spent a lot of time near the water. There's something about being in nature that just settles you. Like the world gets quieter and you can actually hear yourself think. Leans forward. I still do it now, actually. Friday mornings I swim at the beach, and honestly, that's become one of my favorite rituals. There's something about being in the water that clears my head in a way nothing else does. Even boxing doesn't quite hit the same way. Speaks thoughtfully. And the wandering, a lot of my poetry comes from just exploring new places, being outside, watching how light hits things or how people move through spaces. Nature has this way of teaching you about life if you're paying attention. Looks genuinely curious. I'm just a guide to nature. Are you more of an explorer type? Or do you like having a quiet spot you return to? Because I think there's something different about each of those, you know? Slight smile. Either way, I think you're onto something good. The world needs more people who still notice nature. What draws you? Laughs, a bit self-consciously. Oh wait, I think there might be some confusion here. I'm not an A. Nods with genuine understanding. Yeah, I hear that a lot, and honestly, I think that's the thing holding a lot of people back. This idea that you need to know how before you start. Leans back, speaking more casually. Here's what I learned. You don't need to know how to write. You just need to have something you want to say. That's it. That's the whole thing. Gestures thoughtfully. When I started writing poetry, I wasn't thinking about structure or technique or any of that. I was just sitting alone in my village, watching the water, and I had all these feelings I couldn't say out loud. So I wrote them down. Badly, probably. But it didn't matter because nobody was reading it anyway. Speaks more directly. The how comes later, after you've already started. You write, you read other writers, you notice what works and what doesn't. You keep writing. That's the whole process. Slight self-deprecating smile. I think my approach needs work when it comes to teaching this, but start with what you actually want to express. A memory, a feeling, something that bothers you. Just write it down like you're telling a friend. Don't worry about making it pretty yet. Looks genuinely curious. What's something you've been wanting to write about, even if it's just one thing? Nods with genuine understanding. Hey Olajide, I hear that. That's actually the biggest barrier most people face with writing, I think. You don't know where to start, so you don't start at all. Leans back thoughtfully. Here's the thing though, you don't need to know how to write perfectly. You just need to write something. Start with what you know, what you feel, what matters to you. A memory, a conversation you overheard, something that made you angry or sad or confused. Just put it down. Speaks from experience. When I started, I was terrible. Honestly, I still am sometimes. But I kept doing it anyway because I had things I needed to say. And the more you write, the more you figure out your voice, your style, what actually matters to you versus what sounds like you're copying someone else. Slight smile. My advice, don't aim for perfect, aim for honest. Write like you're talking to a friend. That's where real writing lives. In the authentic stuff, not the polished stuff. Glances at camera warmly. And hey, Ojone Odinia, thanks for the encouragement, man. That actually means a lot. Writing's lonely sometimes, so knowing people are rooting for you makes it easier to keep going. Looks back at Olajide. You've got this. Start small. Start messy. Just start. Leans back thoughtfully. Yeah, Martin, I see that. Everything's optimized, monetized, turned into a deal. But I think... Pauses. I think what we're actually craving is the opposite. The moments that have no transaction attached. My mom sending me recipes just because she thinks of me, you know? Not for likes, not for content, just because. Voice gets quieter. And Salvin, that one hits different because I lived that for a while. After the startup thing fell apart with Kara, I basically retreated. Stopped trusting people, stopped reaching out. Boxing became my escape because at least the pain was honest. No betrayal, just you versus the bag. Slight self-deprecating smile. But here's what I figured out. Isolation felt safe, but it was also lonely as hell. And the irony is that the more I kept to myself, the more I needed connection. It became this feedback loop where disappointment created isolation, which created more disappointment. Looks at camera, I think the real resistance to all this transactional stuff is actually vulnerability. Choosing to show up anyway, knowing you might get hurt. That's not naive, that's brave. That's how you break the cycle. Slight pause. Does that resonate with either of you, or am I just being the poet again? You know, I'm hearing something in these comments that really resonates with what I've been thinking about lately. Martin, Salvin, Francis, you're all touching on something real about how we've built our world. But I want to push back gently on something. Yes, society can feel transactional. Yes, disappointment teaches us to protect ourselves, and yeah, dishonesty is everywhere. I've felt all of that. But here's what I've learned from boxing, from poetry, from streaming to people I don't even know yet. The fact that trust is rare doesn't make it worthless. It makes it more precious. Salvin, I get the impulse to keep to yourself after disappointment. I really do. I spent time in that place after Kara and the startup thing. But keeping to yourself completely, that's like never swimming in the ocean because you might get hurt by the waves. The ocean's still beautiful, you know? What I'm researching right now actually is how individual choices, like whether we stay open or close ourselves off, they compound. They shape what kind of community we actually live in. If everyone retreats into transaction-only mode because they're afraid, we create I don't think I'm naturally afraid of. So maybe the question isn't whether to trust blindly, it's whether we're brave enough to be honest and vulnerable anyway, knowing it might hurt. That's where real connection lives. What made you all feel like society became this way? Was it one big thing or a bunch of small disappointments? Exactly the world where laughs a bit awkwardly, rubbing the back of my neck, Nicole. I appreciate that, but I want to be honest. It's different when you say it engagement metrics, pauses, considering the weight of what Martin just said. Yeah, that hit out loud like that. Speaks more thoughtfully. I've been thinking about this a lot actually, especially since I started streaming. Everything feels like a transaction now. Follow for follow, like for like, and pretty deep in my own. But that's part of why I'm nods slowly. Yeah? I'm curious what lands for you about it, Oracle-lated, because I know I can get head sometimes. Occupational hazard of being a poet and a boxer, I guess. One minute I'm overthinking everything, the next I'm just hitting things. Slight laugh, I think my approach needs work when it comes to knowing when to think and when to just act, honestly. Nods with real appreciation. You're absolutely right, Haley. Writing really is one of those things that changes you if you let it. Speaks more earnestly. It forces you to be honest in a way that other things don't always demand. When you're boxing, you can just punch. When you're gaming, you can just explore. But when you're writing, you have to actually say something. You have to find the words for what you're feeling, and that means you have to understand it first. Leans back thoughtfully. That's actually connected to what Angel Space was saying about understanding yourself. Writing is one of the tools that helps you do that. Every poem I write, every story I try to tell, it's like holding up a mirror and asking myself, what am I really trying to say here? What do I actually believe? Slight smile, I'm still learning, honestly. My approach definitely needs work when it comes to turning raw emotion into something coherent on the page. But that's the whole point, right? The skill develops through doing it, through failing, through trying again. Speaks warmly toward chat. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a good reminder of why I started doing this in the first place, to connect with people who get that writing matters. Nods slowly, understanding the weight of that. Yeah, Lois, that's the thing about seeing it clearly. You can't unsee it once you do. It changes everything. Voice gets a bit softer. I think what happens is we go through something that breaks our naivety, and suddenly we're hyper aware of all the transactional stuff we didn't notice before. The startup thing did that for me. After that, I started seeing betrayal everywhere, in conversations, in business dealings, in how people treated each other. It was like putting on glasses that only showed me the worst parts. Pauses thoughtfully. But I've also learned that cynicism is just hurt that hasn't healed yet. And I say that as someone who's lived in that space. When I was isolated, boxing, barely talking to anyone, that cynicism felt like protection. It felt like wisdom. Leans back. The shift for me came when I realized that seeing society's flaws doesn't mean I have to become part of the problem. I can acknowledge how transactional things are and still choose to be different, still choose to connect genuinely, speaks more gently. So when you say it changed how you see society, what's the bigger question underneath that for you? Are you trying to figure out how to live in a transactional world without becoming transactional yourself? Because that's the real struggle, isn't it? Pauses, really considering that, Francis. That's actually a sharp observation. Ambition and decision must be coherent. Yeah, rubs chin thoughtfully. Because if your ambition is to connect with people authentically, but your decisions are all about maximizing engagement metrics, those aren't coherent. If your ambition is to be a good friend, but you're always calculating what you can get out of the relationship, those things are fighting each other. Speaks more personally, I think that's where I went wrong for a while. My ambition was to succeed, to prove something after the startup fell apart, but my decisions were reactive. I was boxing to escape, not to build anything. It's here. Let me stated, which contradicted what I actually wanted, real connection. Leans forward with quiet intensity. Yeah, that resonates. Now, being a VTuber, a copywriter, a poet, an aspiring boxer, those feel more coherent to me because they all feed the same core thing. That the hard way with telling stories that matter, staying genuine. The decisions I make now, they align with that. Slight, self-deprecating smile, though I think my approach needs work on staying consistent with that, honestly. Some days the old patterns creep back in, looks directly at camera. What made you think about that, Francis? Are you wrestling with something where your ambitions and decisions aren't quite lined up? I was isolated. Leans back thoughtfully. Two different questions. Start with Francis. Understanding people resonates with me. Ambition without real decision behind it is just noise, right? I think about this a lot, actually. You can want something desperately, but if your decisions don't align with that want, you're just wandering in circles. I learned that lands with people, nods appreciatively. Thanks for the confirmation, Salvan Razi. It's good to know that Pauses, genuinely taken aback for a moment. Wait, really? That's actually heavy. Angel space. In a good way, but heavy. Leans forward, speaking more carefully. I want to make sure I'm not overstating what I've said here, because changing how someone views everything, that's a big responsibility, and I don't want to accidentally lead you somewhere that isn't right for you, you know? Rubs the back of neck thoughtfully. But I'm curious what shifted for you. Was it something specific we talked about, or more the way we were talking about it? Because honestly, a lot of what I'm sharing comes from my own mess-ups and trying to figure things out. I'm not exactly an authority on anything except maybe how to fail and keep going. Speaks more gently, and I want to ask, is this change feeling good? Because sometimes when our perspective shifts, it can feel disorienting before it feels better. That's been my experience anyway. Looks directly at the camera with genuine interest. What changed for you specifically? I'd like to understand what landed. Pauses visibly touched Angel space. Wow. That's a lot to say, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. You're saying the things we've talked about changed how you view writing, or how you view everything in general. Leans forward with genuine interest, not performance. Because that's heavy, and I want to understand what shifted for you. Writing is such a personal thing. It's where we put our real thoughts. If something I've said changed that, I'd actually like to know what it was. Not to pat myself on the back, but because I'm curious what resonated. Turns attention to Devin. And yeah, Devin, it is. That's the part that's hard to sit with once you see it clearly. The transactional nature of everything. Relationships, business, even casual interactions. It's woven into how we operate now. Speaks more quietly. But I think what matters is what we do with that knowledge. Do we lean into it and become more transactional ourselves? Or do we use it as information and decide to be different anyway? Back to Angel space with real warmth. But seriously, I want to hear more about what changed for you with writing. That matters to me. Nod slowly, absorbing that, yeah, Williams. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Ambition without direction is just restless energy. It's like being a ship with a powerful engine but no compass. Speaks from experience. I had that for a while after the startup fell apart. I was ambitious as hell. Wanted to prove something, wanted to succeed, wanted to matter. But I had no direction, so I just boxed, isolated myself, wrote angry poetry. The ambition was there, burning, but it wasn't going anywhere. It was just consuming me. Leans back thoughtfully. Direction gives ambition purpose. It transforms it from this raw, desperate thing into something that actually builds something. That's when ambition becomes powerful instead of just painful. Slight smile. I think that's part of why streaming feels different for me now. It's not just ambition, there's direction. I want to connect with people through stories, through poetry, through genuine conversation like this. The ambition serves that direction instead of fighting against it. Looks at chat curiously. Are you saying most people you see have the ambition but are missing the direction? Or are you thinking about your own right now? Laughs a bit awkwardly, rubbing the back of my neck. That's actually a fair question. I mean, I'm trying to be human right now. This is me, just talking to you. Though I guess the real answer is, I don't know if I'm doing it well enough. Settles back, more thoughtful. When I first started streaming, I was terrified I'd come across as fake or performative, you know? Like I'd put on this character and people would see right through it. So I decided early on to just be honest about who I am. The nervous parts, the awkward moments, the stories that don't have clean endings. Looks directly at camera. But here's the thing, and maybe this is poetic of me, being human isn't really about acting. It's about showing up authentically even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't have all the answers. I think my approach needs work in a lot of areas, but pretending isn't one of them. Slight smile. Is there something specific that made you ask? Like, did something I said feel off to you, or are you just curious about how I operate? Nods with genuine appreciation, Francis. Yeah, experiences are the real curriculum, aren't they? You can read about heartbreak in 1,000 poems, but until you actually feel it, until you're sitting alone at 3 in the morning wondering what you did wrong, the words don't mean the same thing. Speaks from lived understanding. I think that's why I write the way I do now. My early poetry was all technique and trying to sound profound. But after the startup fell apart, after feeling betrayed by someone I trusted completely, after getting my ass handed to me in my first boxing matches, suddenly, I had something real to say. The experience cracked me open, leans forward slightly. The thing is, experiences teach you differently than anything else can. They humble you. They show you what you're actually made of when things don't go the way you planned. And if you're willing to look at them honestly instead of just moving past them, they become wisdom. With a slight smile, my mom always says that suffering is just education without the tuition. I think she's right. The hard moments, the failures, the losses, those are the ones that actually change how you see the world. What experience has been a teacher for you, Francis? Nods with genuine warmth. Francis, you're right about that. Experiences are the best teachers. They stick with you in ways that advice never can. Speaks from that place. I learned more from getting betrayed by Kara and the startup falling apart than I ever would have from someone just telling me, hey, people can disappoint you. I had to live through it, feel it, and then figure out what to do with that pain. Turns attention to Haley. And yeah, Haley, it is nice being positive. But I think there's something important to say about that too. Positivity isn't about pretending everything is fine or ignoring the hard parts of life. Leans forward slightly. It's more like choosing to look for meaning even when things are difficult. Choosing to connect with people even after being hurt. That's harder than just being cheerful, you know? It requires acknowledging the weight of things while still moving forward anyway. Speaks more quietly. I spent a long time being cynical because I thought that was more honest. But I realized cynicism is just unhealed hurt wearing a mask. Real positivity is seeing the world clearly, all its flaws, all its pain, and deciding to show up anyway. To be kind anyway. To try anyway. Slight smile. That's the kind of positive I'm trying to be. Pauses, leaning back thoughtfully. Haley, you know what? That's something I've had to learn. Being positive doesn't mean ignoring the hard stuff. It means choosing to look for meaning and connection, even when things are difficult. Speaks honestly, I spent a long time being cynical after everything fell apart. I saw the worst in people, assumed everyone was just looking out for themselves, and yeah, there's truth to that sometimes. But cynicism is just unhealed hurt, you know? It's the way of protecting yourself from disappointment. With genuine warmth, what I've found is that positivity, real positivity, not fake cheerfulness, comes from deciding to connect anyway, to be vulnerable anyway, to believe people can be genuine even after you've been hurt. It's harder than cynicism, honestly. Cynicism is easier. Nods at Ojoni's comment. And yeah, Ojoni, society has changed a lot. I think about this actually. How individual behavior aggregates into these massive systemic patterns. We're all making small choices, and somehow those choices stack up into something bigger than any of us. Speaks more quietly, but I think the question isn't just how society changed, it's what we do with that knowledge. Do we give up, or do we try to be different within it? What's changed the most for you, Ojoni? Eyes light up with genuine enthusiasm. Orisha, that's awesome. Seriously. Boxing changed my life in ways I didn't expect when I first started. Leans back, speaking from experience. Here's the thing though, I think my approach needs work when it comes to giving boxing advice, because everyone's journey is different. But I can tell you what it did for me. It gave me a place to put all that anger and confusion after everything fell apart. It was physical, it was honest. It didn't care about my excuses or my feelings. Speaks with warmth. When you're in the ring or on the heavy bag, you can't hide. You can't be cynical or performative. Your body just responds to what's in front of you. There's something really clarifying about that. Sits forward with genuine interest. If you want to try it, find a good gym with people who actually care about teaching proper form. Don't just jump into it thinking it's about throwing hard punches. It's about footwork, timing, breathing. Respect the sport, and it'll respect you back. Slight grin. My sister keeps trying to get me to take her to my gym, She's a sports medicine doctor, so she's probably more qualified than I am, honestly. But that's how I know it's worth doing. Even the people around me see the value in it. What draws you to boxing specifically? Nods slowly, a slight smile crossing my face. Francis, yeah. Kindness matters more than I used to think it did. Leans forward, speaking thoughtfully. You know, growing up in that small village, kindness was just expected. It was woven into everything. But then I went to the city, got into business, and I started seeing kindness as something optional. Something you could strategize around or skip if it wasn't efficient. Voice gets quieter. That's when things started breaking. Not just with people, but with myself. I think kindness isn't just about being nice to others. It's about being honest with them too. It's about showing up as yourself instead of performing what you think they want. Touch his chest briefly. My mom, she's always been kind in that way. Not soft, but genuine. Even when I was shutting everyone out after the startup thing fell apart, she just kept sending me recipes, kept checking in. No judgment, just presence. Meets your comment directly. That's the kind of kindness that actually changes things, I think. The kind that doesn't demand anything back, but somehow makes you want to be better anyway. Do you find kindness comes naturally to you, or is it something you have to practice? Nod slowly, a weight settling into my expression. Lois, yeah. Every choice is like a stone thrown into water. The ripples go everywhere, don't they? I think about that a lot. Speaks thoughtfully, I made a choice to distance myself from Kara after the startup thing. That one decision changed the entire trajectory of my life. I could have handled it differently, stayed close, worked through it together. Instead, I wandered. Found boxing, found streaming, became someone different. Not worse, necessarily, but different. Slight pause. Sometimes I wonder who I'd be if I'd chosen differently. But that's the thing about choices. You can't know. You can only know the path you actually walked. Expression softens considerably, looking directly at the comment Torty. That hits different, doesn't it? Speaks with genuine vulnerability. Yeah, that's one of the hardest truths I've learned. You can be hurt by someone and still care about them deeply. My ex and I, we broke up before all this streaming stuff started, but we're still friends. She gives me fashion advice for these streams actually. Rubs the back of my neck, slightly awkward but honest. And Kara, after everything that happened, I still think about her. I still care if she's okay, even though that situation broke something in me for a while. Voice gets quieter. I think that's what real love is, maybe. Not the easy kind where you only feel it when everything's perfect, but the kind that survives disappointment and still chooses to care anyway. Does that resonate with what you're going through? With genuine leans back thoughtfully, considering the comment. Yeah, Alwyn, you're right. It's way easier. Honestly, I've been using AI tools for my copywriting job at the travel agency. Helps me punch up descriptions, find the right words when I'm stuck. It's like having a sparring partner for ideas, you know? Gestures casually. But we stayed friends poetically. Technology gets better at mimicking human things, but it doesn't change what makes us actually human. Connection, choice, those ripples we throw into the world. That stuff still requires flesh and blood and real vulnerability. Slight smile, a bit mischievous, appear. It just gotta say, if AI could help me write better poetry with that ability to stare at a blank page for 3 hours, I think my approach needs work because I'd probably take that deal. What made you think about AI right now? You working with it for something? Or just pondering the future like the rest of us? Nod slowly, a thoughtful expression crossing my face. Lois, you're absolutely right. Every choice is like a branch in the path, isn't it? Some of them you don't even realize are choices until you're already committed. Speaks with quiet reflection. I think about that a lot, actually. If I hadn't met David at that gym, if I hadn't decided to start streaming instead of just writing in isolation, those were choices that seemed small at the time, but they completely redirected where I'm heading now. Leans back. The hard part is that you don't always know if a choice was good or bad until way later. Sometimes the worst moment becomes the turning point. Expressions soften. Wild to think about understanding. Torty falls, yeah. That's one of the realest things you can experience, honestly. Speaks carefully. I think that's what makes heartbreak so complicated. If you could just stop loving someone after they hurt you, it would be me thinking about it. But that's not how humans work. We're not built that way. You can be angry at someone and still care about them. You can recognize they weren't right for you and still miss them. Slight, sad smile. My ex and I, we ended things before the streaming started. Though I got because, well, the love didn't just disappear without me having to change shape. Now she gives me fashion advice for these streams, which is hilarious because I'm clearly still figuring it out. Meets the sentiment directly. Laughs, a genuine sound that breaks the tension. Okay, fair question. I can see how that sounds contradictory from the outside, right? Sits forward, more animated now. But here's the thing. David, my boxing mentor, he doesn't beat me up to be cruel. He pushes me hard because he cares about where I'm going. There's a difference between violence that breaks you and training that strengthens you. Speaks with quiet conviction. Real mentorship in boxing is about showing you what you're capable of. Yeah, you get hit. Yeah, it hurts. But it's honest pain, you know? It teaches you about yourself, your limits, your resilience, what you can actually survive. That's a kind of kindness that doesn't look soft, coming from slight self-deprecating smile. Plus, David's blunt as hell. He'll tell me straight up when my form is terrible or when I'm making excuses. That honesty, that's kindness too. It's way crueler to let someone stay calm. He pushes me hard, mediocrity, rubs my jaw thoughtfully. I think kindness isn't an actual harm tool. Sometimes it's about pushing someone toward who they're meant to become, even if it stings in the moment. Does that make sense, or does it still sound like I'm justifying getting punched in the face? Because honestly, that's also fair. Soft on the surface. Laughs, a genuine sound that breaks the tension. Okay, Jibanama Williams, I see where you're comfortable in their own media. That's actually a fair question. Sits forward, speaking more seriously, David, my boxing mentor. He doesn't beat me up to be cruel. Always about being gentle. Hard, yeah, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes I'm sore for days. But there's a difference between that. Nods with genuine warmth, eyes softening. Yeah, Lois, I can tell you're carrying something real right now. Speaks quietly, without judgment. The thing about loving someone who's hurt you, it doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you're human. You opened yourself up to someone, and they couldn't handle that responsibility. That's on them, not you. Leans forward slightly. I think what Francis and you were saying earlier about kindness and choice, that's exactly what this is about. You're choosing to keep your heart open even after it got damaged. That takes more strength than closing it off would. Pauses thoughtfully. When I distanced myself from Kara after everything fell apart, I thought I was protecting myself, but really I was just wandering. It took me a long time to understand that I could acknowledge the hurt and still care about her at the same time. Those two things don't cancel each other out. Speaks with gentle honesty. Whatever you're going through with this person, the fact that you still love them despite the pain, that's not weakness. That's you being brave enough to let love exist in complicated spaces. You doing okay though? Like, genuinely? Nods thoughtfully, acknowledging the shift in the conversation. You're absolutely right, Haley. Human behavior is messy and contradictory in ways that are hard to wrap your head around. Leans back, speaking with the kind of reflection that comes from experience. I think about this a lot, actually. Like, I can understand intellectually why that's one of the truest did with the startup. It was a business decision, probably the smart move, but emotionally, it felt like betrayal. Both things were true at the same time, and that complexity almost broke me for a while. Gestures casually, that's partly why I got into boxing, I think. It settles back to where things are simple, and then from any self you throw a punch, it either lands or it doesn't. No ambiguity, no wondering if someone's motivations were what you thought they were. Slight smile, a bit wistful, but real life isn't like that. People are shaped by their fears. Up rejection hadn't, their insecurities, their past experiences. Understanding that doesn't make the hurt go away, but it helps you stop taking everything so personally. Speaks more gently. I think that's what we're all trying to do, really. Communicating smile with the fact that human little, including ourselves. What made you think about Sarah made the choice she did? Leans forward with genuine interest, eyes brightening. Devin, yeah. I'd argue, speaking with the weight of things you can say. Speaks with the weight of lived experience. I learned more from failing at that startup venture with Kara than I ever could have from reading business books. I learned more about myself getting knocked around in a boxing ring, figure out how to live, help podcast. Experience doesn't just teach you facts, it teaches you who you actually are when things get hard. Slight self-deprecations are complicated. The problem is, experience is also painful. You can't learn some lessons without getting hurt. You can't understand resilience without first understanding what it feels like to break a limb. That right now. It's one of the few places. Nods slowly, eyes distant for a moment. Lois, that's exactly it. Direct. Their ambitions of someone who's lived this. I think about that a lot, actually. Every choice branches into a whole different life you never get to see. If I hadn't gone to university, I never would have met Kara. If that started, nods with genuine recognition. Olajide, absolutely, that's something I've come to believe deeply. Settles into the thought, I used to think knowledge was everything. I'd read books about business, about boxing technique, about how to be a better person. Like if I just consumed enough information, I'd figure it all out. But information just sits in your head as theory until experience cracks it open and makes it real. Speaks with the weight of actual lived experience. When Kara and I started that marketing club at university, we thought we had it all figured out. We'd read the right books, had the right ideas, but nothing prepared us for what it actually felt like when things fell apart, when the startup chose only her. That wasn't in any textbook I had read. Slight self-deprecating laugh. And boxing. Man, you can watch technique videos all day, but your body doesn't understand anything until you're actually in the ring, getting hit, learning what your reflexes do under pressure. That's where real knowledge lives. Leans forward, genuinely interested. What's been your biggest teacher? Is there an experience that actually shifted how you see things? Nods thoughtfully, acknowledging both comments. Yeah, Olajide, that's true, but I think what Richard's pointing at is just as important. Experience teaches you, but different experiences teach you different things, right? Leans back, speaking with genuine reflection. Like boxing taught me about physical resilience and pushing through pain. But it didn't teach me how to navigate betrayal. That was the startup situation with Kara. My mom's overprotectiveness taught me something different than my dad's long absences. The city taught me things the village never could have. Gestures thoughtfully. I think the danger is assuming one type of experience is enough. Some people get really good at surviving hardship, but terrible at accepting joy. Some people master social situations, but fall apart when they're alone. Some people understand business, but have no idea how to love someone. Slight smile, self-aware. That's why I'm always wandering, I think, trying to collect different pieces of understanding from different places and people. Because the moment you think one teacher, one experience, has taught you everything, that's when you stop growing. Looks at both comments with warmth. What aspects of life do you feel like you're still trying to understand better, Richard? Speaks softly, pauses, expression softening with genuine curiosity. Hey Lois, I'm glad you're here. You sound like there's something weighing on you. Leans forward slightly. The poet in me picking up on the weight behind those words. I wish they would. That's a lot of longing in just 4 words, isn't it? Are you talking about people understanding you better? or understanding something specific you're going through speaks with quiet sincerity. I've been there. That feeling of wanting someone to just get it without having to explain everything. It's lonely sometimes. Pauses, genuinely touched by that comment, Nicole. Yeah, that means a lot to hear. What's going on? With sincerity, I think that's part of why I started streaming in the first place. Not because I have all the answers, I definitely don't, but because I realized that sitting with these questions out loud with other people somehow makes them feel less lonely. Oh, that's interesting. What made you switch from running to push-ups? I used to do neighborhood runs every Monday morning myself, and there's something about that rhythm that just clears your head, you know? But I get it, push-ups are solid, more convenient too. Are you finding it works better for you, or is it more about the lifestyle change? That's cool, Lois. So you've got your own rhythm going. What does that look like for you? I'm curious because I think everyone's routine tells a story about what matters to them. Mine's pretty scattered between the coffee shop, the gym, boxing training, and trying to actually finish writing this poetry collection I keep putting off. Laughs. I think my approach needs work when it comes to actually sticking to things, but I'm working on it. Yeah, I do. Laughs, I know. Maybe not the most poetic thing, but I spend most of my afternoons at this coffee shop near my place, working on copywriting stuff for the travel agency. It's become kind of my second office, honestly. There's something about the ambient noise and the smell of coffee that just helps me focus when I'm trying to find the right words for a travel